Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers CBO.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another amazing knowledge forum at the Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers. My name is Uche Naya Ogba. I go by Uche, and I'm so happy you all are joining us today. And we are very excited because we have an amazing guest that's going to be speaking. But before we bring him in, I know we have some folks joining us. One of the key things we love to do when we get started is learn where everyone is joining us from. So I'm going to launch our amazing and awesome questions. And, it's kind of just a way to kind of get to know who you are and where you are and what you're up to. So we have three questions. Where are you joining us from? What do you produce or hope to produce on your farm slash ranch? And what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise on your farm slash ranch? Well, I'm just going to answer mine verbally. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas, originally from Nigeria, but I love San Antonio. I call San Antonio home. What do I produce? Well, I'm all into herbs now, all into herbs and sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes. I learned a little something. And carrots. So I do have a little garden in my backyard where I have herbs, rosemary, mint, oregano, as well as I just put some carrots in the ground and some potatoes in the ground as well. I'm hoping for the best. And livestock, I have no livestock yet. I do want to have some little rabbits at some point so that I can utilize some of their droppings to add as an organic fertilizer for my soil. So, if you are joining us, we have launched our icebreaker questions, and we're just asking a few questions about where you're joining us from, what you produce or hope to produce in your farm slash ranch, and what type of livestock do you hope to raise or do you raise on your farm slash ranch? So your answers are valuable to us. We are also joined by the amazing Uriah. Uriah, please join us, join us. Yeah, that's the amazing ride right there. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well.
All
Can
right.
you share can you share with our audience where you're joining us from and some of the questions? What do you produce or hope to produce on your farm slash ranch? And what type of livestock do you raise or hope to raise?
At this time, I'm not raising any livestock. Let me see, but I am growing quite a bit of things out here. Some watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydews. Let me see. Still have some kale that's like doing very well. I don't know why. Sweet potatoes, onions, garlic, mustard greens, bunch of herbs, man. Spearmint, rosemary. And just really enjoying nature, man. Just letting the Almighty Creator do His thing. And so we got
Yes.
some muscadines out here too. And we're over here in the Seguin area of Texas, Guadalupe, near Guadalupe County. And yeah, that's about it. Yes, sir.
That's great. That's great. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Now, everyone, if you're just joining us, we have our icebreaker questions. We would love for you to share some of your answers with us. And we will be shutting down very soon. We have a few folks, only a few folks have answered, but that's okay. But we'll be shutting down pretty soon. And if you want to answer in the chat room, feel free to answer in the chat room. It's open to everyone. We want this to be as exciting and communicative as possible. So I'm gonna end it. We're 3 minutes into our icebreakers. Let me end this right now. Let's see. So what did y'all say? What did y'all say? That's the question. Okay. We got some amazing answers. Oh, welcome. Guests from Fluger. I never know how to pronounce this. Is it Pflugerville or
Pflugerville. Yeah.
Pflugerville, Texas. I am so sorry. I butchered that. Please correct me in the chat room. Welcome. And we also have a guest from Hacker Heights, Texas. Welcome. We have another guest from Houston. Oh, is that CC? I think CC is on the call. Okay, CC. Welcome. Welcome, Cece. We All right. Second question. Guest said no farm, but wants to start gardening smartly for me. Yes, you are in the right place. Our knowledge forums are open for everyone in every stage. When I first started this, I was in the beginner stage. Trust me, I didn't have nothing, but I have started growing and learning and gaining that courage. I kind of have a green thumb now, so I'm very excited about that. So welcome. Another guest said honey, garlic, and root veggies. Ooh,
Wow.
I wish I could grow some garlic. I want to grow garlic so bad, but fiance, she my wifey, she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it as much. I
What?
know. I'm trying to convince her. No, but we'll see. We'll see how we can get her. But I love me some honey. I love bees. We've had a workshop regarding bees in the past, how the pollinators are great for the health and wellness of your small ranch or large farm. It doesn't matter, but they're perfect. And Cece, herbs. Yes, Cece, yes. Awesome. And our guest said none when it comes to raising livestock, none, but my father used to raise cattle on his farm slash land. Yes, our speaker actually, he used to do the same thing. He still has a few livestock on his farm, so he can probably even speak more about how vital livestock is to today's knowledge forum. And next guest said goats, ducks, fish, and worms. Oh my gosh, I am so jealous. I am so jealous. That sounds like the perfect, perfect spot. Goats, ducks. I love me a good goat. Don't bring a goat around me. I will have dinner ready. So, but I love them, but I would love to eat them as well. CC said none. Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us. Hey, CC, thank y'all so much for joining us. We appreciate you today. We have an amazing, exciting guest. We have an amazing person. He is a learner and also the smartest person I know when it comes to farming and ranching, but he is not an expert. I got to remember that. He's not an expert, but he's also one of the most knowledgeable people I know. P. Wade Ross is joining us today. P. Wade, how you doing, sir? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, my bad. My bad. I was gonna say you making a black man blush over here, bro. But you give me all this
I
compliment.
try my best. I try my best. I
I don't
try
know
my
how to
best.
accept it. But
See,
no,
I'm
excited
getting
to get
better.
going, man. Excited to get going.
Yes, sir. Well, today's
All
knowledge
right.
forum, everyone,
And
is
I'm out
no
in the country.
fertilizer. You're out in the country, right?
Yeah, so there's a little delay. There's a little delay, but so apologize ahead of time, y'all, if we seem like we talking over each other. I got a little delay there. But you let me know when you're ready for me to get going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, P Wade is out in the country, but that's a life of farming, and ranching. You're gonna be out in the country. Sometimes Wi-Fi can be a little spotty, and that's okay. But that means that he is one with the land. He's already there in the trenches. He is learning as well as educating us on his processes as well. So today we're going to be talking about no fertilizer, no problem. As y'all know, we are in some crazy times right now. I mean, just to say the least, gas prices are going up as well as fertilizer prices. Little do we not many people know this, but a lot of our fertilizer comes from the Middle East. And with the issues going on
Wow.
right now, it's actually restricting access to fertilizers. So we want to educate everyone on how to avoid using fertilizers entirely, how to utilize the normal things you have already at your disposal to create the best healthy soil. So P Wade, I'm just gonna pass the baton to you, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Feel free to take over.
Oops, you stopped sharing. Did that wrong. Sorry about that.
All right.
All right. You see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started, y'all. I'll start things off with, I was on the call the other day, and someone was talking about fertilizer, and and the question came up, about compost and some other things, and those are, in, as far as we're concerned, that is fertilizer. So when you hear the word fertilizer, sometimes it's used in the context of synthetic fertilizer. We're just going to use it as, so anytime you hear us just say fertilizer, we're probably going to be talking about synthetic fertilizer. But moving forward, hopefully we can create some new norms that we're now calling the type of fertilizer that we're going to share in this training as to be the new norm of the fertilizer we're using, especially with some of the rising costs like Uche mentioned. But before I get going, I want to share a quick disclaimer. I heard someone call me the other day and they said, "Hey, Phil, man, you're out there doing some great stuff, but you're ruffling feathers too." So I told Uche, I said, "Hey, I'm going to create a disclaimer slide that we're going to share each slide, because the narrative was that I was, mandating and telling people they have to farm the way we farm, which is so far from the truth. It is not true. So anyway, number one, I want each one of you to know who's on here, or who's watching, that Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers community-based organization respects all growers, of all shapes, sizes, methodologies, all that. We respect you. We understand also the sensitive topic of anyone who considers themselves a farmer, because this is a lifestyle, just like anyone else who works a profession. We're very sensitive about what we do, and Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers respects that totally. Okay. The other thing is that we want you to know that our goal is to enhance your journey as a farmer, is to provide information, knowledge, and awareness, just like any other education, and for you to apply it as you see fit. If you disagree, then you disagree. You can turn, you can hit the button, turn this thing off. Our hope is that you continue to listen, learn. I once too was a farmer who rejected a lot of the things that you're going to hear tonight, but I was smart enough to keep my ear because it was sounding right. I just didn't like it because, again, my personal feelings were hurt. So totally sensitive. All of us here at Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers are totally sensitive to that fact, and we want to make sure that you know that we are. With that said, this training is void of any mandates of implementation. Again, our hope is that you implement it, and if you do, that you start small and scale up as you master some of the things that we're sharing. But if this is not for you, it's just not for you, okay? And we understand that. Last but certainly not least, if you are part of a federal program, please consult with your farm rep on that program to see if it aligns, if any of these things that we share here that you would like to implement align with the program that you are participating in. Even half the battle is just knowing, and so make sure that you ask. So I have more disclaimers on here, but these are the main ones. So we'll go here. But please reach out if there's any confusion. Please reach out, because it's important to us that we're just here to be educators, trainers, and see you enhance your farming journey. So, all right. So with that said, I do want to jump into why this topic matters. And first and foremost, soil regeneration. Just as you heard Uche kind of touch on earlier, and you can do your own research, which I do recommend that you do on any training, not just this training. But the experts out there, the so-called experts in farming and agriculture and food, all understand we have about 30 to 60 growing seasons left of topsoil. Our soil has been depleted, okay? So we have to not only, we can do some things to slow it down, which is what we call sustaining, but we also need to do regeneration, which is rebuilding. The good news is all of us on here can start today doing that if we choose to do so in our growing spaces. The other part of this is nutrient dense food. Some of you got, and that's part of the feather ruffling, I guess, out there is we did, I think a couple months back, we did a series on what's on your plate. And the short of it is a lot of the things that are being labeled as food isn't really food. So we want to get back to the basics. We want to get back to the days when food was not only nourishment, but it was medicine. It's medicine as well. And that's what we're talking about today. This is the foundation of that. Another key thing that's always at the top of farmers' mind, which kind of leads us into using some of the chemicals because we get so focused on pests and disease. And the reason this training matters is because if we have healthy soil, you have healthy plants. And guess what, y'all? Pests typically don't want to attack healthy plants. They attack disease and decaying plants. That's just one of the rules of nature that we can get into. So keep that in mind as we go, but that's why this matters. Most people don't hear that. You're not going to hear someone at the fertilizer herbicide salesman tell you that. Why? Because they got mouths to feed too. They want certain of us to believe narratives. And again, that's why I'm ruffling feathers, because I have a choice to please the masses or tell folks what they really need to know that no one else is saying. I choose the latter, to tell folks what they really need to hear. And part of that is the opportunity to reduce pest and disease. The other part of this, and I'm giving you guys some of the benefits up front so we can go a little bit deeper, but the other part of this is empowerment. Empowerment not only with the food we eat as nourishment, but the food we eat as medicine and the impact that it has on our personal health, and the food that we eat as money. Uriah and I, we've gone all around East Texas, doing a course that we call, food is money. It's medicine, it's medicine and it's money, but it's also nourishment. But the empowerment part starts right here with you. Some things that you're going to hear me say are repetition. That's why? Because that's important. Repetition is important because our goal as an organization is for you to eventually be able to take this back and teach it to the people who need to know this, teach it to our youth. So again, we can start creating a new normal. So some tips, best practices to get the most out of this. I do recommend that you just sit back and just let the full presentation wash over you. Uche, correct me if I'm wrong, but anyone who's registered and on here tonight will receive a recording, and you can go back and watch this. This is not going to be that long, although I'm kind of off to a slow start here, but this won't be that long. It's just really an overview of some things to come. And so please sit back, relax, let's get this information, and then you can go back and rewatch it again for the best results if you want to go a little bit deeper. So before I move too far forward, like I said, we got to move a little bit backwards and talk about some of the fundamental things, especially for some of y'all if this is your first time on one of our trainings. It's very important to understand what I'm going to share with you, to understand the four vitals of nature when it comes to growing things. Just like you see on the left-hand side here, we have human vitals. You go to a doctor, they don't just jump in because you said that you feel sick, or something doesn't feel good in your body. What do? They check your heart rate, check your breathing, check your blood pressure, and they check your body temperature, check your vitals, okay? No different in farming, okay? When you're growing, when I say farming, because you'll hear me say that a lot, all of us are farmers. If you're growing out of the ground or out of a pot, you're a farmer in Texas Small Farmers and Ranchers book. So wanted to make sure you say that so you don't self-exclude as I go on here and I use the term farmer. So as a farmer, there's four main things that surround everything you do in growing. And one of them is the water cycle. And the water cycle is basically rainfall and how often that happens along with moisture in the area and the climate that you're in. Okay. And there's certain things that you can do, not everything you can control when it comes to our water cycle, but there are certain things that you can do to promote the water cycle and rainfall and the fact that it comes down and, flooding and drought and evaporation and what gets down to the roots of the vegetables that you're trying to grow and what goes down to the aquifers. There's things that we can do as a farmer, such as, making sure that we cover all bare ground that will attract actually more rain. People don't realize that. And, another thing that we can do is grow more plants that are natural that will also take less water. So there's certain things that we can do. It's important to understand there's a such thing as a great water cycle. There's a such thing as a poor water cycle. And there's things that we can do to enhance that as a steward of our land. And the next thing is the mineral nutrient cycle. And what this is really talking about is the world beneath our feet, okay? We have the world beneath our feet is greatly neglected. It's full of microbes. And I mean, there's millions, you can take 1 teaspoon of soil and there's millions and millions of microorganisms, living organisms in there that make up our soil. Our soil is alive, but a lot of times as farmers, which has gotten us to this point, we've treated it as it doesn't even exist, the soil. We've always, I know I have always been taught to focus on what's going on top of the land and not really taking time to understand what's going on underneath. So we do have a pretty cool video for you, just a short video to kind of break up the monotony. So y'all don't want to just sit here and hear me lecture. So I'll show you a pretty cool video that kind of explains the nutrient cycle. And then diverse living organisms, okay? Diversity is a good thing, okay? And we make up diversity as well as human beings, but wildlife, different types of grasses and species in there. I already talked about the living organisms underneath the ground, animals, all those things matter. Diverse communities is what really makes up stability when it comes to your growing space. We'll talk more, we'll dive into that more. And then last, but certainly not least, is solar energy flow, the sun. Not only how much sun your space is getting, but what is the leaves that you're using? What is the green things that what we call the solar panels that are being collected? Are there ways that we can increase sun exposure by where we plant our garden, or maybe it's us getting a high tunnel, so we can prolong those things, or even planting with cover crops and things like that. So those are the 4 vitals. And what's important to know, I'm not going to go too much further into this because that's not what this topic is about, but it's important to understand that everything works as a whole, just like your human body. If you go into the doctor and you've got bronchitis, it doesn't only impact your lungs, it's impacting your throat because you got a cough and everything, your nose is running. So same thing with farming. If you have some standing water that's creating a flood, as you see in this picture, underwater cycle, that's going to impact the mineral cycle, the world beneath your feet. They're drowning too, trust that. The living community, because now there's nothing growing there, so how's the living community going to survive? And solar energy as well, because again, you don't have green space, green pastures, and green leaves for the sun to collect energy and bring it down to the root system. So everything is tied together. Don't let anyone tell you any different. All four of these things are tied together. So I always like to go back and recap that, because everything else I share with you is not going to make a lot of sense if we cut that corner. So very important. And hopefully, and if y'all have questions or anything like that, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A, because we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this and open it up to y'all. If you have any specific questions, we want you to feel free to share them. So, Uche, I know you'll be checking that chat as we go. All right, so our goal, our job as farmers is to mimic nature and then get out of nature's way. That's our goal, okay? So keep that in mind. As much as we can mimic nature, we're in good shape. And some of the ways that we can, some of the tools that we have to mimic nature are things such as mulch and litter. If you're not sure what litter is, basically litter is what's already growing there natural, like you see here on the screen. Once this grass dies off, it's going to be it's going to lay on the ground as litter, just like mulch. So all litter is like leaves and grass that's died off, and now it's laying on the ground surface to decay. Another tool is cover crops, AKA keeping living roots in the ground. I know Uriah did a couple of trainings. He did one back in wintertime, and someone asked him, hey, should I just pull everything out of my garden? And he was like, nah, probably better to leave those roots in there, so living roots, so things continue, so you continue to feed the soil, even if you're not having something grow during wintertime. Okay, so cover crops is another good tool of mimicking nature. Low and no till. In other words, try doing your best not to disturb the ground, the soil, that world underneath your feet. Those are living creatures there that are designed, that are there to do a lot of your farming for you, just like some of the livestock on top of the ground. Let's not neglect that livestock. That's why a lot of times I have a lot of farmers call who want to get started. And they say, hey, well, I'll just go ahead and, till up the ground, turn over the ground, break up the ground. I'm like, oh, hold up. You might have some great soil that you're now turning into bad soil because you break it up. These are things that you're not always going to hear out there in the mainstream, but you're going to hear it here, because we want to make sure that you're able to use the resources that you already have in place and maximize it. A lot of times you're doing yourself a disservice if you're turning over the ground, because why? You got living creatures under there that are in most cases ready to be enhanced, to be better, or it may be perfect soil right now that becomes unusable soil if you turn it over. Livestock and grazing, animal impact. So whether you have chickens or sheep or goats or cattle, there's a way to, in most cases, I'm learning about pigs. I'm going to hold on that one too. I'm told that it doesn't work as well on pigs, but I also am told, based on what they're being fed, there is a way to make it work with pigs as well if they're pasture raised. So point is, livestock is probably the number one, probably the best 1A way to build soil. I know a lot of us don't have livestock, so don't fret. We got a 1AA for you too that we're going to share with you. Native plants, as I talked about before, especially for water retention and to get deep roots, especially if you're in soil that tends to not do too well with compaction and things like that. Native plants are a way to go. And if not, either lean into them. Like right now, one of our native plants, believe it or not, is asparagus. I mean, it's a good native plant that just pops up everywhere on our farm for some reason. So we're going to lean into that. It's a perennial that just pops up. All we have to do is put some mulch down, and all of a sudden we see asparagus. So guess what? Since it's native and it grows that easy, yeah, it's going to be one of our crops that we use, and it's going to continue to build our soil as well with roots underground. Pollinators, again, that promote. We all know about pollinators. I don't need to stay there. Last but not least, tools. Another tool to mimic nature is composting. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is play a short video that really talks about, without really nerding out. If I try to talk about it, I'll probably be talking for the next 15 minutes trying to explain it. But this really gives you a shortcut to what is happening beneath our ground. I talked about that world beneath our feet, and this is going to give you more insight on what that really means when it comes to feeding our growing spaces and creating our own fertilizer. So here goes. Uche, before I click this button, do I need to make sure certain things are on the share thing, or should it work? Or should I just try it?
I'll say
just wave
try.
at me if it's not working. Yeah,
Okay.
wave at me if it's not working.
Okay, it's not working. You might have to
Okay,
stop
I'll go.
sharing.
I'll stop sharing, go in here and unhit those buttons. Sorry about that, y'all.
No problem. No problem.
Is my screen back on?
Yes, sir.
Oops. Let me go back. I almost had it.
How does nutrient cycling work? During photosynthesis, plants combine carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and sunlight to produce simple sugars and carbohydrates. But just like humans, plants can't live on sugars and carbs alone. Fortunately for plants, there's a rich source of nutrients right under their feet in the soil parent material and in organic matter. When dead plant material, or organic matter, falls to the surface of the soil, it's gradually decomposed by microorganisms. Nutrients are then released into the soil in plant-available form. The next generation of plants then absorbs these nutrients, and so nutrient cycling begins again. We humans remove nutrients from this cycle when we take food from our fields, but these are easily replenished when microorganisms harvest nutrients from the parent material, the rocks and pebbles, and the much smaller particles such as sand, silts, and clays. At the molecular level, the parent material comprises large lattice structures which hold nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, boron, calcium, iron, and all the other nutrients that a plant needs. With a balanced soil food web in place, plants can control the nutrient cycling that's happening in the root zone. They invest some of the sugars and carbs they produce during photosynthesis into the soil in order to feed bacteria and fungi. This causes bacterial and fungal populations to increase dramatically. The bacteria and fungi then get busy harvesting nutrients from the organic matter and parent material, absorbing these nutrients into their bodies. Predatory microorganisms are attracted, and they begin consuming the bacteria and fungi. The wastes left behind by these predators contains an abundance of nutrients in plant-available form. These are easily absorbed into the plant roots. So the plant gets a good return on its investment, exchanging sugars and carbs in return for all the other nutrients it requires. This results in well-nourished, resilient plants and in nutrient-dense food for us humans. With a balanced soil food web in place, plants are able to access all the nutrients they need, on demand, simply by varying the compounds they release into the soil. This means that farmers don't need to waste money buying and applying fertilizers. The soil food web costs very little to maintain by comparison. Having nutrient-rich plants results in greater yields and improved quality of the produce. Reduced costs and greater yields result in dramatically increasing profits for many farmers who have used the soil food web approach. The nitrogen-based fertilizers that farmers use are made using huge amounts of fossil fuels. Only around 40% of these inorganic fertilizers get absorbed by crops. The rest is either volatilized, polluting the atmosphere, or it runs off polluting our rivers, lakes, and oceans, causing algal blooms and dead zones that are a major environmental problem. So restoring the soil food web leads to nutrient-rich food for the consumer, increased profits for the farmer, and also benefits the environment.
All right. So, I'm pretty sure I've ruffled some feathers there, but was that pretty cool, y'all? In a
Great
short
video. Excellent.
extent?
Excellent.
I nerded
Good,
out. I
good. Thank
nerded
you.
all the way out. I loved it.
Okay. Good, good. It's better than me explaining because it'll take me 15 minutes to explain that because I get too wordy. But so what we want to do, like you just saw there, when we use the word fertilizer, we want to create a new normal, a paradigm shift. And what that means, I guess it's important to understand what this video didn't say. It kind of said it, and it called it parent material. But all the minerals that we ever need, we've got about 1,000 lifetimes worth of minerals. That's the big thing that folks don't want you to know. Everything you need to grow plants, based on where you are, it could be different in different climates. But as far as minerals, you don't need to be going out buying nitrogen and, magnesium and potassium. Everything your plant would ever need, I don't care where you are, you could be in the Mojave Desert, it's already right there in the soil. The thing is that no one tells you, our job is really to create the environment. We're going to share one of the best ways to do that. But plants select nutrients, not farmers, not growers. But that's what they convinced us to do. Now we're out buying all the things that we feel, those little 3 numbers that we see, because they've convinced us this is the only way to do it. I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Don't trust me. Start leaning into it. We're going to give you some things to study, but you can do your side study, but I'm here giving you the cheat notes. It's not true. Again, I was one of those farmers who did it. And then my brother and my dad literally were butting heads, which made me go, and I love to learn new things. So I was like, well, let me become a soil biologist. And I learned a lot of things, and I trialed them because I don't want to just be coming on here telling y'all stuff that I read out of the book. No, we converted our farm based on this. Some of you have been out to our farm and you see the results, and which makes us comfortable sharing this with you. Okay. So the other thing to know is many nutrients that should be in our food is not there because of the methodology we adopted. Again, those 3 nutrients, there's like over 40 some odd nutrients, but a lot of times we're not getting that in our system as medicine, and all of a sudden you see all these consistent diseases that are coming up. Again, stuff that folks don't want you to know because there's a lot of money behind it. Always follow the money if you're wondering why you didn't hear something. This is the case too. Matter of fact, in one of my certifications, there was a farmer who had some cattle and they had eczema. He was like, why my cow have eczema? But it was always a constant problem. And they switched from spraying the fields with synthetic to using natural liquid extract compost. And within 6 months, there was no more eczema amongst his herd, never to come back again. Why? Because all of a sudden those natural nutrients that were already right there were now awakened, by the microbes that were in the ground that otherwise were being killed off. And guess what? It was getting into the food. It was into the grass that the cows were now eating. And when they, ate the cows, we were also ingesting that stuff too. So just keep that in mind. A lot of the stuff almost everything starts in the soil. Okay. So, the other thing, so the method that I promote is hot composting. There's a few reasons why. But it's important before I get into that. it's important to know that all compost is not created equal. Just because someone is selling you compost, if it's not what I call biocomplete good compost, you're probably doing more harm to your garden than good. Sure, you might see some early growth, but you just invited some things into your soil, into the world beneath your feet that can cause some damage later on down the road, and you don't really realize it because in your mind, this was compost. Not all compost is created equal, okay? Number one. Number two, in my opinion, the best return on your investment when it comes to time, when it comes to labor, when it comes to cost, and when it comes to results is hot compost, okay? And I'm gonna give you a few reasons, some reasons why. Number one, it holds oxygen and water. It's what we call aerobic. Anaerobic is when things do not hold water and oxygen. And what happens with that, with anaerobic, you have unalive. It's just like human beings. We need oxygen, we need water, we also need food. And if we don't have those things, we die off. And in this case with soil, not only does the good microbes die off, and you promote pathogens as well that come in its place. So hot composting takes care of that because it promotes the full spectrum of beneficial organisms. Okay, so once it gets above 131 degrees, it's game on. You know, the beneficial organisms that you want in your soil survive, while the bad guys get cooked out. They die. Okay, so your pathogens are eliminated. You don't want to get, now when I say it heats up, you don't want it to get higher than 170 degrees. Now it's getting too hot, but you want it to be in that sweet spot of 131 to 160, 165, I would say. And you want that to go for 3 days or so. And we'll give you more insight on that as we go. But time is also a big component. But the other cool thing is it allows us for use of manure. I know Uche likes that because he sees all the clips on there that anytime we mention manure, our hits go up. So it allows for the use of manure. I know Uriah also promotes that big time. And it's nutrient rich. Going back to our food, it's not really always about yield. It's about nutrient density. And if you don't believe me, look at how we looked in the 1970s and how we look now. Just look at two different pictures from those eras. Very rarely in 1970s did you see, or early 1970s at least, did you see people who, you know, appeared to be obese in appearance. The reason for that is because our food was through local family farms that didn't travel across the country, that didn't need all these different preservatives and that were grown in soil that was closer. I know they were using some of these practices, but they were not depleting the soil the way they are. Okay, so, and the other part of hot composting is it's safe. Okay, some of us on this call right now have aspirations to be able to sell our products wholesale. It just fits into our lifestyle better. Well, guess what? The one thing that's hit and miss when it comes to being able to sell wholesale for small farmers like us, along with quotas, which we'll talk about that later, but we've gotten rid of the quota piece for a project we're working on. But the other thing is food safety. There's certain protocols and processes and SOPs that have to be followed. Well, guess what? Hot composting aligns with all that, along with all the other benefits that I shared with you. So I want to talk about the power of heat when it comes to hot for y'all to understand this, because what's going to happen, you're going to get off this and be all excited about hot composting. This reminds you, God, don't worry about that hot composting stuff. I got a different way to do it. So yeah, if you want to do it that different way, so be it. But I just explained to you all the benefits. Let me go a little bit deeper on the power of the heat. So what happens with the heat is it's probably going to start at ambient temperatures, you know, what was it, the 80s, 90s, right now, but pretty soon that temperature is going to move. And what's happening is the good bacteria is feeding on the green materials. And we'll talk about what that recipe is in later trainings. But that green material. So what's happening as bacteria is feeding, the temperature is rising, okay? And as that pile heats up from the core, and you see that thermometer stuck right in there, that thermometer, the tip of it is right at the core of that pile there. So as it heats up, we want it to get over 131. We know it's now we're in action. And then we want to spend at least 3 days between 131 and 160. All right. And as it's doing that, it's not only destroying pathogens, it's not only destroying some of the bad guy bacteria and even fungi and some of the other things. I'm not going to nerd out on y'all, but the bad microbes in there that promote pathogens, human pathogens, are now being killed off. Okay. And also it kills, the other cool part about heat is it kills weed seeds. I love worm composting. One thing about worm composting, doesn't kill your weed seeds. When we say weed, the unwanted plants that you don't want growing in your garden. Okay. There's also what's very important here, and I'm gonna play this video first.
It's fertilizer.
Wow. Go fix me a bowl of fruit. So I guess, and then now we can start working on this. Just spread that.
All right. That was fun.
Just spread.
So what you saw there, let me turn this off quick. So what you saw there is a farmer who's actually using this, but one of the keys to hot composting is turning it. So like I said, 3 days above 131. If it gets up to 140, you could do 2 days from that point. If it gets up to 160, you might only do 1 day and turn it again. If it's at 170, you want to turn it immediately. But what it does is it allows oxygen to flow. As you can see, the heat here, you want to turn it so each part of the materials that you see on the side there have the opportunity to get to that hot core. So very important there. It keeps the oxygen flowing and ensures all the raw material that you see there on the sides passes through that hot core and does everything that we want it to do. And then any unwanted organism die. I can't even talk now. I probably need to get something to eat. But unwanted organisms die throughout the pile as we turn. We'll probably turn the organic rules say 5 to 6. Sometimes I get it done in 3, and we'll talk about how I know the pile that is finished. But along the way, almost every day, I would say, especially here in Texas, you want to mist the pile with a little bit of water. You don't want to spray too hard because, again, these are living creatures that you don't want to kill inside here, but you do want to mist the pile because that's another key component along with turning that makes sure, that the heat stays up and that your living organisms are getting what they want. Unlike humans, we ain't going to survive too long at 131, 165 degree heat, but the beneficial microbes that we want will. All right. So managing your compost, you want to make sure that you monitor the temperature every day. And the reason I say this is you think as farmers, we always think we can keep stuff in our head. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'll be like, man, what was that reading yesterday? Or was that the day before yesterday? Write it down, y'all. Write it down and record it. Also, the moisture, and in future trainings, we'll show you how to check the moisture. But you always want to write those things down daily so you're turning your pile on time, not ruining your pile or making it go anaerobic, which means it's not getting enough oxygen. And all of a sudden, you're smelling all this putrid smells and so forth. That's not going to get it. So if it does go anaerobic, that means it has no oxygen, and the beneficial organisms that you worked so hard to create are now going to die off, and they're going to a lot of times be replaced by pathogens. Okay. Is there a way to recover that? Sometimes I do have a hack that I'll share with you all later in future trainings, but there are some hacks that may help it, but there's no guarantee. The other part is be sure if it gets too hot or you're starting to smell things, you're gonna have some putrid smells early on, especially in the first couple of turns. But if you're starting to smell smells that you haven't smelled before, or it's getting too hot too fast, basically take a broomstick and put some holes in the top of it that releases the air. Basically, oxygen basically is going to travel up, down to the core and give it the oxygen and the microorganisms need to thrive. So don't be afraid to create chimneys. You don't create so many that you just brought the temperature down too far, but don't be afraid to poke some holes in it if you need to. So maturation into natural fertilizer. So at some point, the high nitrogen that you put in your recipe, and we'll talk about that as well in future training, that will burn off. And as those temperatures start to drop, that's where the real magic is happening. There's a rest period. Usually takes about a week or so to cool off. Sometimes if there's a lot of nitrogen in there, and the depending on the temperature and all that stuff, time of year, it may take a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to burn off. So everybody's a little bit different, again, based on some of the materials that you're using. But there's a cool off period, and this is where the magic happens. I call it the poop loop. But what starts to happen is the fungi network, which is what you want, because that's really going to connect everything and turn your microbes underneath your ground into a network of workers for you that's going to build your soil. So your fungi networks are being built, but also the microbes, the bacteria, there's something called protozoa, even nematodes, which are little worms that a lot of people don't like, but everything is necessary. Everybody has a job. Everybody is eating each other. Everybody is pooping. And guess what? The plants are selecting for the nitrogen that they want. Excuse me, not the nitrogen, the nutrients that they want. And it's going to select for themselves. It's got all these different things, just like you. You don't want to eat the same thing every day. Same with these plants. They're selecting for what they want. They're turning the minerals into plant-ready form, and that's your fertilizer. But all we've done is created the environment for it to thrive. Okay, so the poop loop begins as it's cooling off. Once it gets to the normal temperature, your compost is ready. How am I doing on time, Uche? Is Uche there? Or you right? What's the timeline?
You're doing great,
I
Phil.
can't see it on my.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Great. I had a thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So how do you know your compost is ready? Keeping in mind, poor compost is harmful compost. One, there's a smell test. So if you pick up that pod, I dig about 3 inches down, because sometimes the top layer might be a little sunburned or whatever, but you do want to always cover it every day with the tarp. But if you want to smell it, it should smell earthy. It should smell like the forest floor. And I do recommend each one of you, if you haven't created one of these compost piles, this is for every compost. You want to make sure you go out to a place that's forestry, could be around in your neighborhood, that you know is not heavily traveled by human beings. Reach down about 3 inches and smell that. Smell that soil. That's what your compost pile should smell like. So that's one test. Another test is the eye test. It should be dark. It should be chocolatey. I'll have a picture here on the next slide. I think that pops up. That will give you an idea of that. But that's what's called, humus? It basically is telling you that you now have that black gold that you're looking for. And then the touch test, there should be no heat, no steam coming off your piles. It should be light, it should be fluffy. It shouldn't be dense like the picture I think I showed in the couple slides back where it looked like literally a dirt bomb because soil was so packed. So those are the things that can really help you. The surefire way to do it is to put it under a microscope, but that's again you're nerding out. I do that because I'm a certified lab technician. But if you want at any point in time, folks want me to come out test their soil or their compost, as long as it fits in my schedule, I'd be happy to do so. So recap. Understand those four vitals of nature: water cycle, nutrient cycle, biocommunity, solar energy. Those are the main things. They all understand that they all work together. If one thing is out of whack, everything's out of whack. If something's not going right on your farm, start here. If something's not going right in your garden or whatever growing space you're using, always start with that fundamental, work backwards. And then as best you can, try to mimic nature in your farming practices and feed your plants with living compost, okay? Some of y'all are going to probably go back to what you're used to. As long as it's living and smelling like the forest floor, hey, do what you do. I just gave you a recommended way that I would do it that compiles everything into what you're looking to do, all right? So I'm going to finish things up with be like the bison. Like Uche already shared, there's things going on. It don't take rocket science to know, looking at our gas prices and looking at all these feeds, you can Google or search engine fertilizer right now and see what pops up. But that stuff is real. And what I'm here to share with you is, that the storm is coming. If it smells like a storm, it probably is. And what a bite. And you're sitting here looking at this big bison on the screen, probably going, what in the world is this? But I encourage you in times like this to be like the bison. What bison do, unlike cattle, unlike other animals, when they smell a storm coming, all other animals run away from the storm to try to get out of it. What a bison does is they face that storm and they run right through it to the other side so they can start eating grass and getting back to their life, okay? That's what we're trying to do with you in this training. We don't want you so caught up in all these news things that you can't control. Understand what you can control. And let's move forward with that. And that's really what this training is about. So with that said, again, I don't know how long I took, but we got a new slogan. I found out that be the exception was something being used by a larger organization. And I don't know about y'all, I don't like to be sued. So we are now saying be loyal to the soil. So that's it. Thank y'all. And I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you for that presentation. That was amazing. Excellent. Well, I guess I'll start off. I think, we do have some beginner farmers here. And we have some farmers, I'm sure we have some farmers who've been farming for a long time. So I guess my first question is, what is the biggest mistake folks need to avoid?
Okay, that's you hit me with the big one out the gate. I like that. I think the biggest mistake, there's two. I'm gonna give you two. I have to. The biggest mistake is not re-educating yourself. You've got to spend some time to learn, to implement, and to debrief. As you said already, I am not an expert. I'm just a guy who loves to learn, and I'm a nerd. I'm a soil nerd. And I love to share, but I am not an expert. I'm a farmer. But a lot of times we, as adults, we want to cut corners. We feel like, oh, well, I don't really have time to learn stuff. No, this is your food, y'all. This is your medicine. And if you want it to be, it's going to be your money too, your side hustle. You see, you watching the same news as me. So I encourage you to invest in re-educating yourself. What you think you know about farming, and that went for me too. Let's throw that out the window. And let's start fresh and create new normals that are going to get us, number one, back in the game, but number two, get us healthy and get us vibrant as people again. So that's number one. Number two is start small. And when I say small, I'm literally talking about, a pot or one of those little tin raised beds, and master your craft. Some of the things that we're sharing, some of the things that other folks who are into permaculture and into regenerative agriculture are doing, because even the most experienced farmers out there have no clue on this stuff. They're not going to tell you that. They're gonna a lot of times they may discourage you from doing that because people don't like folks straying from the tribe. But guess what? Start small and grow into it. If you're already farming, you already got something, it's okay. Just put you a test plot out there and start small with your practices. Don't try to plant 100 100 acres, implement 100 acres of what we're talking about here, and then get frustrated because it's so new. Grow into it.
All right. Okay.
All right. Hey Phil, while you said something very alarming at the very beginning of the of your podcast, and you said that you said, wait a minute, what was it, 30 to 60 years of topsoil left. And that was very
If that,
alarming. Huh? Yeah.
if I shouldn't be smiling as I'm saying this, if that, it could be soon
If that,
or
right?
less.
And so, if you are a novice, if you're a child, you probably say, "What is topsoil? I'm scared. We gotta save it. We gotta rescue it." And so, like, my question is basically, and just a basic, like, what exactly is topsoil, and why is it endangered? And I'm gonna let you roll. That's a alley-oop.
Oh yeah, no worries. So typically when you're trying to in your growing spaces, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Uriah, because I'm more of a soil livestock guy, and you're more of a gardener. But typically, you want 2 to 3 inches of growing soil that you can stick a pitchfork into, you can stick a shovel into, not necessarily to turn it over and disturb the the uh, the ground, but the world beneath your feet. But guess what? That's where your roots have to go. Your roots have to go down. And if you don't, guess what? Because I've got a lot of people who say, well, Phil, I've got tons of rocks in my, well, then build up. But the point is, you're not going to, for mass production, if you got a 100-acre farm, you're not going to, or 1,000-acre farm, excuse me, which a lot of the go big or go home agriculture farms are, you're not going to try to build up 1,000 acres. But for us, the good news is small farmers, we can build, we can build it down by doing certain things like I shared with you, compost or putting liquid straight into our roots that are going to build our soil system and build the structure of our soil over a year or 2 or 3, depending on, certain things in our farm itself. But that's what I was talking about. The other part is the reason why it's lost is because we killed the world beneath our feet with synthetic fertilizer, just like bomb and Hiroshima. These are living creatures underneath here that have now been killed off to the point where the difference between, we all know the difference between soil and dirt is what? It's life. It's life. The difference between soil and dirt is life. So if you have no life, you got dirt. And guess what? Dirt doesn't hold roots. And if your roots aren't being held, then guess what happens when a windstorm comes? All that topsoil is blown away. And guess what happens when a series of winds happen over years and years and years, days and days and days, years and years and years, and most of us have windy seasons, where we live. Guess where that topsoil is going to? It's going to your neighbors. It's going up in the air, or it's going into our water supply. And pretty soon you have, I forget what you call that, but you've got rid of that 2 and 3 inches that you want, and that's not coming back. That's not coming back unless we do certain practices to help it come back.
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Excellent. So, Phil, we have 2 questions from our viewers. The first one is from Kelly, and she says, "Is ash from burned items a good fertilizer? What should be the limitations on burned contents?"
You're right. You can chime in. You all the panelists can chime in on this. I particularly like to show farmers how to farm with nature. If ash is natural, great. If it's not, guess what? That's an expense. And a lot of times it's expense. It's not getting through that straight that they got blocked off there. So I don't know if it's considered synthetic. You guys can Google that, and maybe Uche, as I'm talking, maybe Google that, give your feedback. But what we're trying to do, what our goal is to teach you how to farm with nature as much as possible. Sure, I know Uriah just did something this morning, Tuesday seed, and what was it, cocoa core
cocoa core.
There's things that you can do. Yeah, there's things you can do to supplement, but for the most part, things have been growing. Just look at a tree, look at an apple tree, look at some of the wild grapes. Those things are growing they didn't need our interference growing. So that's where I'm at, is that we already have, I want everybody on here to know and realize you probably have all the materials you need to grow what you want to grow. If that's what you want to do is get ash or things like that, not a problem. But our goal, a lot of those things are why we're on the side, because inputs have become so heavy just to be able to farm today that a lot of us are on the sideline because we become so dependent on stuff that we don't really need to go get, because a lot of the stuff we're talking about works better anyway. So I'm gonna let you hit that question, Uriah.
Look, wood ash, like if you live in the country, most people have like a burn pile, and you burn a lot of weeds and branches that have fallen down, and so that wood ash is good once you know what's in it. If you have some plastics and different things that you don't really want, and if it's wood ash, is good stuff. And wood ash actually is a good source for potassium, calcium, and I think magnesium. So these are for plants that really like an alkaline type of environment. Your tomatoes, your leafy greens, alkaline loving plants. So, but you just use it sparingly. It is a good source if you're like, once again, if you're using like wood ash, because we burn stuff out here, and sometimes a piece of plastic will get in there, or some other, something that we don't necessarily want in our garden. So like wood ash is actually good, used with the right plants.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think it felt like it, and again, I was answering, I think, in potash, and that's what I wanted you to look up. Which, I don't have my phone with us, but even too much of anything can be too much. Burning, great,
Yes.
but you want that balance. If you're burning to recoup your soil, that's great. But if your soil is already good, why are we burning stuff? So
Right.
Yeah.
there's an order to everything that we want to do. There's a method to madness, and I think what has happened in agriculture, again, talking to myself as I'm talking to y'all, is we started doing stuff because we wanted to feel like we were farmers. So we started, knocking over trees and burning stuff up and turning over our soil because that made us feel like a farmer. And as a hobbyist, that's great. But if you're in this for business or whatever, then we got to start being a lot more intentional. And part of that, like I said before, is getting re-educated. And then, hey, if it works, if you need to, based on where you're at, whether you're in Kansas or Oklahoma or wherever you're at, if that is part of your repertoire, it needs to be part of your repertoire, ash, then so be it. But let's re-educate, have a good understanding of why we're doing some of the practices that have traditionally be done. Because I'll tell you, and it's part of why people say I ruffle feathers. Hey, if you go into, a certain office and ask that same question, guess what? They'll go down. They won't even ask you, some of the basic fundamental questions. They'll go down that road because that's what you've asked.
Yes, and to add to what everyone has said, for ash, it's pretty much 10 pounds to 1,000 square feet, which is very little. So you want to use as little as possible. Plus, there's the possibility when you use ash, if you already have composted soil on there, you will neutralize your composted soil and kind of destroy it in the process, with the ash. So it's only you have to understand your particular soil for ash to work effectively. And yeah, but yeah, thanks for that question, Kelly. We have an she
Yes.
said yes, they burn a lot in Oklahoma where my land is. That definitely answers my question. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. We have another
All
question
right.
here from Cosmosis. Cosmosis. The question is, once we're ready to plant, should we be concerned about gnats that gnats etc that may come with composting? So they're talking
What's
about
that?
insects and gnats when it comes to that or gnats or pesticides that might occur with composting. But please, I know you have the
Wow.
answer to that.
Hey, oh, can I take? Okay. Hey,
No,
look,
you're right.
All
Take it.
right. So
is that?
am I
Oh, go
am
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
breaking up? Am
No,
I
you're not
breaking
breaking.
up, y'all, or is that Uche? It must
You're
be
not
me.
breaking up. You're good.
Yeah. Go ahead, you're right.
I was going to mention. You mentioned, Phil. You touched on this that if your compost is off balance, you have certain smells. It's not quite heating up the way you want it to heat up, and you might have some type of infestation of bugs. But you're going to have bugs anyways. Some people say, how do I keep the mice away? You're not going to keep the mice away. At the very, very, very beginning of it, if it smells, what you think is trash is another animal's treasure, right? They go digging up inside there, and they're gonna get at it. And so, like, but one way to is to prevent the flies, gnats, or anything is to really make sure that you don't leave any green, moist nitrogen source like your leafy greens or whatever you put in there. You don't want to leave that exposed. You make sure that you cover that with some leaves, some brown stuff that's not going to attract certain insects. You want to prevent that because they gonna look at it as like a feast if you don't cover it well with your brown leaves or
Hey,
whatever. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
hey, Uche, can you pull up that video? Can you pull up that video of the heat
Yes.
coming off of there? If you can't find it, don't worry about it. I'm gonna try to find it.
No, I
But
got that. I'm gonna share.
um,
I'm gonna share in a
okay,
second.
please play, show that slide.
I'll just share
So
the video itself.
to answer, and what was it? Repeat the question, just to make sure.
The question was, once
What
we're
was the
ready to
question, just so I understood it? Let me go to the chat. I want to.
so Cosmosis said, um once we are ready to plant, should we be concerned about gnats,
Mhm.
etc., that may come with composting?
Okay, so let me answer this. Number one, once Uche shares, and you see the heat coming off that's at about 140, 150 degrees. There's no gnats or flies or insects that are going to live through that, number one. So even if you start off with a compost pile that has some flies here and there that are attracted, because you do have to soak some of the material, things like that. So you're going to have some of that. They ain't sticking around, number one. Okay. Number two, that is why there's different types of compost. That's why I recommend hot compost, because hot compost doesn't attract with the
Wow.
materials that you have. It's not going to attract
Go fix me a bowl.
the flies and the rats and the
Well,
grubs,
I guess
because you're all
I
the
start working
materials that you're using, which I didn't cover here,
Icebreaker.
and I'm talking, but if you could turn that volume down, but watch that heat is hot. That middle that you see there, the compost pile, ain't nothing sticking around. That's why I recommend hot compost. The other thing is that yes, if you just do regular food scrap compost that some people do, you're going to attract rats and you're going to attract flies and some of the things that you know fire ants and things that you just don't want to be dealing with. So that's why I recommend hot compost. Hope that answered the question too, but you can close that out.
Yes,
And
Cosmosis
I
said
caught what was his name again? I think
Cosmosis
is this my compost guy, Cosmosis?
that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Are
This
you
is
my
Vivian.
compost guy from a couple
No,
of years?
Cosmosis. This is Vivian and my partner Jeff.
Okay.
Yes, this is Vivian and Jeff. Great, 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 great questions, y'all.
Okay.
Okay. I
Okay,
guess
cool. I met a Cosmosis a few years back.
So Phil, I guess the
Sorry
last
for the
question I
delay
have,
here, y'all.
I know. The last question I have is, I guess, you know, the one thing that everyone thinks about. What's the cost to get this started?
Well, let's see. 40 buckets, 5-gallon buckets to get your recipe down. Uh, Looks like my connection is unstable too. Um, in those buckets will go about 24 of those will be like leaves from your own property. If you can't find leaves, put some wood chips or whatever you're using for bedding, or cut your grass and put it in and let it dry out. The other, another 12 of those buckets will be either manure from a horse or from cattle or from sheep or whatever you got there, goats, or you can just fill them up with alfalfa pellets that you get at your feed store. And then the other, what is it? What am I missing? 18, I think. I said 40. The other 18 is going to be green clippings from either your garden or your grass or whatever. So, uh, and if you got a water hose, whatever it takes to fill those buckets halfway, that's what it's going to cost
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you. And repeat, rinse and repeat. The reason I say rinse and repeat is because if I was just starting out, that's all I would do for the first year is create these compost piles that can feed my garden and build my soil, regardless of the situation. If my soil is perfect, it's even better. If my soil needs to be built, I've got a running start on it, and I can put do some gardening trials as well. But that's what I would do as a beginning farmer. And keep in mind, this can be turned into liquid, which I recommend. And we'll talk about that in the training too, where you just pour it at the base of your plants and feed your plants like you're feeding fertilizer, every 3 weeks or 3 months, whatever you normally do, which is going to go a long ways if you're doing it the right way. So anyway, that's what it'll cost
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil. Well, we are the 7:20 mark, y'all, and we are wrapping things up. Thank you, Phil, for that amazing presentation. I hope everyone was able to garner some sort of knowledge or information about how to grow on their own garden or farm or space organically. And I think that's the most important part, having to ensure that we do not introduce foreign, I will say, fertilizers, foreign things into our food system. We want to eat healthy, we want to eat naturally. So, I just want to share a little housekeeping with y'all because I truly believe that we should all grow together. And one of the key things in Texas Farmers and Ranchers is that we want to stay connected with y'all. So, if you're already here, you probably joined us by seeing this information, whether in our weekly newsletter or you've been to a previous knowledge forum. We're excited that you've joined us before. We're excited that you signed up. But if you have not, feel free to sign up for our newsletter. We send out info on tips, tricks, ways, information, blogs, everything, grants as well, weekly every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. So we send that out and we hope that you take advantage. If you already do, thank you. If you have not, this is a great opportunity, as well as our knowledge forum. Like you can hear here, you have Phil and all our experts sharing their knowledge and information how to grow better and more efficiently. In addition, we also have our academy. This you can sign up for our academy on our website, and when you get in and you sign up and put all your amazing information, you have a host of courses that you can get to practice and learn and grow. As you grow with this academy, more courses will open up to you, which at some point we're going to announce some amazing new courses that you will be getting for your hard work and participation within the academy. So please sign up if you have not already, if you want to learn more and dive deeper into how to expand your growing platform, your growing business that you have within your own space. And last but not least, please follow us on social media. We have a wealth of information. Every Tuesday, we have Tuesday Seeds that is dropped by either Uriah or P. Wade. I know Phil's trying to get me to do it too, but I'm like, but Uriah and P. Wade have been blessing us with some amazing information. Uriah's was just shared. So check out our YouTube page. We're growing steadily, as well as we can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, X, LinkedIn. You say it, we got it. Follow us on any platform that is preferable for your choosing. And for all of that, we are grateful that you're staying connected with us. Thank y'all. We appreciate y'all. What's the new slogan? Because we are loyal to the soil. I got it.
I love it.
I got it right. I got it right. Yes, 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 yes.
Loyal to the soil.
Yes.
I love it. That's sweet.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We're very appreciative of you spending your evening with us. We hope to increase our more information and share more. If you're on this call, you will receive the recording of this within 24 hours. And please just look out for my name and from Uche at tsfrcbo.org. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you want to grow your farming business, reach out to us. We're here to assist and help. And yeah, Uriah, Phil, any last words?
Yeah, we do. We will have. I know. Hopefully, we sparked y'all's interest on creating your own hot compost. I know someone asked how much it costs. That tells me y'all are interested. So our team and I are. That's why Uche is saying look out for his name because he's looking to put together a couple different options for you to get more information on that. But before we jump through those hoops, we do want to hear from you. I don't know if you could put our admin at tsfr.org in the chat, Uche, but we do want to hear from you whether you're interested in the hot composting creation of hot composting. If you are, we'll put something together and give you a couple of options on how to obtain it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uriah, any last words?
Man, something, I really appreciate the people that came out today. We are experiencing high food prices, a lot of things is happening, and this was particularly poignant because fertilizer is going to go up just like everything else. But we are the people that have always dealt with adversity like this, and we shall overcome it. And so, but I think that one thing needs to be understood is that we're just imitating what the creator does in the forest, right? And we just have to go back to some of the ways that we were doing before. And I love these classes, these workshops. You know, we need to like. I wrote something down really cool. What did I say? Love the land that you're on, no matter if it's a little corner, whether you got a couple of acres or whatever. Make sure that you are taking care of God Green's earth, and it will take care of you. And so that's all I gotta say, man. I'll start preaching over here. And hey, man, everybody, I love you guys, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
All right. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. Thank you for joining us. And as we now say, be loyal to the soil.
Be loyal to the soil.
Yes. Good night, y'all. Stay blessed. Love y'all.
That's right.
All right.